These are 5 works of the Church Fathers that I recommend reading if you just want to get into reading the Church Fathers. Now, I get a lot of questions about where to start when people are interested in reading early Christian writers. And there are so many works by so many fathers that reading can be pretty intimidating. People don't really know where to start. And then oftentimes, if you do start somewhere, you may be pretty confused by whatever you're reading. And so there are some works that are harder to read than others. For example, Irenaeus' Against Heresies is one of the most important works written in the early church, certainly one of the most important works in that kind of immediate post-apostolic age. But it's not an easy work to read because the work is a refutation of Gnostic systems. And if you start reading the book, you read about all of these kind of wild Gnostic beliefs of different groups, and it's really complicated, really confusing to wrap your head around. So what I want to do is give you 5 recommendations of books that are really influential, but also books that are pretty accessible to somebody who isn't really acquainted with all of the particulars of the history of this era. If you don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Jordan Cooper. I run a theological education organization called Just and Sinner. You can find us at justandsinner.org. And I also am chair of Lutheran Dogmatics at American Lutheran Theological Seminary. So if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, I encourage you to do so. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. Now, the first recommendation that I'm going to give is the Apostolic Fathers. Now, the Apostolic Fathers is the name that is given to the earliest group of Christian writers. And these treatises, letters, or epistles are rather short. They're pretty accessible. If I could recommend just one of the Apostolic Fathers to you, I am going to recommend one that is actually anonymous, and it's kind of loosely associated with the Apostolic Fathers because we don't know the exact date. But that is a work called the Epistle to Diognetus. And this book, it's pretty short, but it is an apologetic, a defense of Christianity. And it's one that you don't need excessive amounts of information about Roman paganism to understand, which for some of the apologetic treatises, you really do. And it's a very beautiful book. It is one that has really clear, wonderful expositions of the gospel. And it's going to give you a taste of not just what early Christians believe, though it certainly does that, but it's also going to give you a bit of a taste of what the early Christian apologetic writings in Rome look like. And so of all of those apologetic writings, it's probably my favorite. Again, it's pretty brief, and it's just a really wonderful text. It's one that I have returned to. I actually just reread it last week. It's one that I've read over and over again, and it's one of those texts that you can just kind of keep coming back to. The second recommendation is St. Athanasius's On the Incarnation. This work is the best work of St. Athanasius, and that's saying a lot because Athanasius has a lot of really great works. But this one is not polemical. It's not a debate like his writings against the Arians. It is simply a treatise on the Incarnation, and he's asking the question, why did God become man? Why is it that the Incarnation was necessary for our salvation? Again, it's not really that intimidating. It's a short work, and this is another one that it's a book that you can reread again and again and again. I've talked to numerous people who tell me that they read this book every year. They say during, the season of Advent, they reread On the Incarnation every single year. And it is one of those books also that you can just return to again and again. And so this work is one that is influential across the board within Christianity. I mean, you find people from all different Christian traditions that foundationally look to this text when they're speaking about the Incarnation and the cross and the resurrection of Jesus. Why did Jesus do what he did? Now, if you're looking for a particular edition or asking what edition you should get of this, the edition that has the introduction from C.S. Lewis is the one that is most often recommended. And that is because C.S. Lewis's introduction is just really good. He's a great writer, obviously, and he has a really wonderful introduction to that. Now, I want to say the books that I'm mentioning here, these are ones that you can also find freely accessible online. They're going to be older translations. That's in the older Schaff set, which is the one that I guess it's not in the background of my videos anymore because I've moved my books around from then, but it's a very large set that you're often going to see in the backgrounds of a lot of people on YouTube doing theology stuff. They have it, but the translations are kind of different qualities in that set. Some are harder than others. The translation of On the Incarnation is not that hard, so the freely available one will be just fine. The third recommendation that I have is the Confessions of St. Augustine. And the Confessions of St. Augustine is really what caused me to fall in love with the Church Fathers. I mean, this book was transformative for me spiritually in a way that almost nothing else was. And this book was a popular book at the time. It was like a bestseller. And so St. Augustine is generally considered the most important church father, especially for the Western church. There's some, maybe the East, at least today, doesn't have as fond of a view of St. Augustine. But St. Augustine is the favorite father of Martin Luther, John Calvin, and Thomas Aquinas. And so our various traditions in the Western church have really all been formed in so many ways by the ideas, the categories, the debates that St. Augustine was engaged in. And so anything by Augustine is going to be worth reading. A lot of his greatest works are really dense, and they are not easy reads. Again, they can be pretty intimidating. So The City of God or De Trinitate on the Trinity, those are his most masterful, extensive works. However, they are extremely long, and they are not always the easiest to read. So for that reason, I recommend the Confessions. Now, this book is essentially, it's Augustine's autobiography, and it is written in the form of a prayer. And so Augustine writes about his experiences before Christianity, his rebellion. He spent time in what was this heretical sect at the time called the Manichaeans. He spent time among the Platonists, and eventually he converts to Christianity. It is just a really beautiful book. The majority of the book is very accessible, easy to read. There are a lot of newer translations as well. There are tons of translations of the Confessions. And you should be able to follow along pretty well, even if you're not that well acquainted with some of like the philosophical movements. It does help, though, to have an edition that's going to have an introduction that will at least tell you some of that. Once you get past Augustine's conversion, he goes on this rant about the nature of time, which is very convoluted. And while it's really interesting, you may be very confused once you get to that point. So it's okay to set the book down then if you're not ready for that. But the rest of the work is just, and that part is good too, but the rest of the work is just really, really beautiful and wonderful. So in terms of books that have influenced me, that's easily top 10, probably, definitely top 5 as well. So highly, highly recommend that. If you do want to read another work, and maybe I'm trying to stick with 5 here, so maybe this is honorable mention, I'll say, is a little treatise that Augustine wrote called On the Spirit and the Letter. Another book that really influenced me when I read it, really influential for the Reformation. But this is a little treatise that Augustine wrote, and this is in the midst of the Pelagian debates, where Augustine is debating a man named Pelagius, not just Pelagius, there's also a guy named Julian who kind of takes up that cause, but Augustine is defending the sufficiency of grace to save. And this book, On the Spirit and the Letter, is a little treatise, quick read, really helpful description of the nature of grace and how grace saves us. So highly recommend On the Spirit and the Letter as an honorable mention. If there's going to be a second work of Augustine, it's shorter also than the Confession. So if you just want something short, a treatise to read, you can also go there. Now, the fourth recommendation I want to make is, in some ways, I want to say any series of sermons by St. John Chrysostom. And St. John Chrysostom, the word Chrysostom or Chrysostom, it's pronounced differently depending, just like Augustine is Augustine or Augustine. That word means gold. It means golden-tongued or golden-mouthed. And he was really the greatest preacher of the early church. And so while Augustine is the best theologian proper in the early church, Chrysostom is really the best preacher in the early church. Though Ambrose, his contemporary, is a little bit of a rival maybe for that title, but I'll probably give it to St. John Chrysostom. Now, St. John Chrysostom's sermons are the easiest to get into if you want to read something that is more like a modern, especially expository sermon. I mean, Chrysostom's sermons basically read as commentaries. And he simply comments on the passage, tells you what the passage means, and then makes application. There's theological application, and there's a lot of practical application. And so generally his sermons are going to be divided into 2 distinct parts. The first part's going to be kind of your exposition of the text. What does the text mean? Explanation of the theology of the text. The second part is going to be practical practical application. How do we then live this out in our lives? There's so much, honestly, just very practical advice in St. John Chrysostom's sermons. I find myself going to him over and over again over the years. If I'm going to look at one commentator in the early church, he's the first one I go to. Bar none, he's the best. I think much better than even St. Augustine in terms of his actual commentaries. Now, I love Augustine's, especially his commentary on the Psalms. Plenty of good there, but Chrysostom really, as far as a commentator, he is the absolute best. And so he is not only theologically important, but he is also going to just enrich your spiritual life in so many ways. So if I could recommend just one set of sermons, because there's so many, it's probably overwhelming. I will recommend, this is a book that our publishing house put out a number of years ago, which is his sermons on the book of Galatians. So it's his commentary on Galatians. And it's good because it's small, so it gives you something a little shorter to read. And at the time, I was looking into doing a whole series of books that were going to be smaller works of the Church Fathers they were the older translations, but with some updated language and introductions to make it a bit easier for modern readers. That's the only one we ever ended up putting together. If you do want to see more in that series, let me know. We could certainly consider that. We're talking about doing something with an abridged version of the City of God. Which again is just one of those books that's so intimidating because there's so much. And this would be a small abridgment, just kind of here's your introduction to the City of God, the basic, most important chapters and themes. If you want to see that or something similar, let me know as we think about future projects. And then the fifth and the final recommendation I want to give you for something of the Church Fathers to read to get yourself started is a treatise called On the Mysteries or On the Sacraments by St. Ambrose of Milan. And I just mentioned Ambrose before this to say that he's kind of Chrysostom's greatest rival for the title of great preacher in the early church. And St. Ambrose was Augustine's pastor. He was the pastor to Augustine's mother. And there's this wonderful story of Monica, who's Augustine's mother, St. Monica, she's weeping to Ambrose, who is her pastor, her priest, and she's weeping for the sake of her son, Augustine, who had been so rebellious. And Ambrose takes her aside and he says to her, truly, God will not allow a child of so many tears to perish. I mean, very pastoral, caring heart that you see all over his life and in his writings. And Ambrose is one who is he's eloquent. He has a way with words. He is an influence on Augustine. A lot of Augustine's theology in some way goes back to Ambrose. And so if you're looking, for example, for some early writings that speak about original sin in a way that the church talks about original sin after Augustine, you find a lot of that there in Ambrose. Ambrose has a really strong emphasis on divine grace. There's so many treatises of Ambrose that are really worth reading. He's got a bunch of lectures that are catechetical, meaning that these are lectures that were given to students who are just looking into Christianity and are looking to join the church to be baptized. So a lot of those works are really long, which is why I'm not recommending a lot of those longer works. They're also not all as easily accessible. A lot of his best works were only translated in more recent years, so they're not those like free books that you can get. Catholic University of America Press puts out a bunch of Ambrose's writings, and anything that you read from him is really good. But his little treatise on the mysteries or on the sacraments is a great little treatise. It's on baptism and the Lord's Supper. It gives you an idea of what the early church was teaching about these topics. And again, it's just very pastoral, extremely practical. So there are plenty of other books I could recommend to you. And this is the problem with people diving into the Church Fathers, is there's so much that people never know where to start because it feels so intimidating. And so I'm just giving you 5, only those 5, because I don't want to make this list intimidating. So I'm sticking with that. And so let me know if you find this helpful. A lot of people have really said that they've wanted me to talk more about church history. I don't know if that's just the Church Fathers or what people are looking for. So if you want me to do more on any of these figures, anything specific, please do let me know in the comments. That's always helpful as I'm planning things. I am really at a time where I'm catching up on a lot of things that I wanted to do. I have some older series that I still need to finish that I have plans for. But as we come out of the summer, I'm going to be looking to do some new different series. So it would be helpful for you to let me know what you want to see me do. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. And we'll see you in the next video. God bless.